Now, live in studio and promoting the entrepreneurial spirit that drives the American economy, your host, Jamie Maloney.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to That Business Show with Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Up first, I have Bruce Wozniak, founder and president of Now Hear This Entertainment. So, Bruce, welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning.
And Bruce is also a returning guest to the program, and also a fellow podcaster, I should say, too.
Indeed.
So, Bruce, first off, though, tell us about Now Hear This.
Now Hear This focuses on management, promotion, and booking in the entertainment industry, but it's really, just to continue the first hour, it's really about storytelling, because building the brand and really getting these entertainers to understand that they have to have a unique selling proposition. And when you talk to a musician, all they want to do is play their music and say, I'm good, so book me. But it's my job to kind of help them identify what their story is so that I can go out, and that's kind of why my company is called Now Hear This, because I have something to say, and it is listen to this person. So it's kind of a dual meaning. But people don't understand as musicians that they have to have something that's going to differentiate them. Everybody just wants to say, book me because I'm good, or book me because my band has been together for 12 years or whatever it is. Well, so what? Everybody can say that coming through. Everyone believes in themselves, hopefully.
Right. Now, a lot of musicians, tell their stories through songs, correct? But you find that most do not, and they just write some lyrics that don't even make any sense sometimes.
Well, they're good storytellers when it comes to being songwriters. It's being business people. It's identifying their brand and building their brand and telling that story that they have trouble with. I may have told this story the last time I was on your show, but the classic example that stands out to me was someone that contacted me and said, I want Now Hear This to book me. And I said, well, I don't do just booking only, because you have to have that whole picture. You have to have the whole story to tell. And if all I'm doing is booking you, I don't really know what your story is. And so how can I kind of represent you to places where we're trying to get you booked? And this guy told me, he says, well, we're a bunch of guys that are in our 50s. We've been playing together for 20 years. And I said, okay. And my voice inflection implied, that's a good start. Tell me more. And, he just said, well, you just tell them that we're good and that we've been playing together for a while. So I said, well, let me take a look at some of your stuff and I'll get back to you. And when I looked online, all they had was a website and a Facebook page, and they had neither audio nor video on their Facebook or their website. So I called them back and said, how are these places supposed to book you based on not being able to see or hear what you sound like? And he said, well, that's when he repeated himself. Well, you just tell them that we're good. And I thought, well, these people don't get it. And so that's what my job is, to come in. And, I have a client, she's been my longest tenured client. She lives in LA these days, but there'll be a lot of times where I'll say, look, we need something new on the homepage of your website, or it's time for us to put out another e-newsletter. And she'll say, well, I don't have anything going on these days. I don't really know what we're going to put. And I'll say, let me call you back. Yes, you do.
Right.
Really? What do I have going on? Let me write it up for you. You've got stuff going on. And so that's kind of, my specialty, is to do that for people, so that, again, you have to show that you're constantly busy, and that someone will look at it and say, well, this girl must be doing something good, because she's always got news coming out. I look at her calendar of shows she's always playing, and what I've always done is kept a list on her website of all the shows that she has played, so people can go and look back and say, wow, this girl gets a lot of work. She must be pretty good.
Is there something, though, that you shouldn't put out too much, though, because then people, and this is just what's the downloading and stuff, they may not come to your show if everything's online. Is there a factor, or is that involved in some way?
Yeah, I agree with that. When she put out her first album on her website, where you went into the audio section, and we just had clips. We had 45-second clips of songs, because it's just enough to kind of whet the listener's appetite into getting them to purchase the music. So yeah, you certainly don't want to overwhelm people to the point where they can say, well, I'm just going to sit back. And unfortunately, that's it's my belief that that's what Facebook Live is going to hurt.
Yeah.
Is people can sit home and say, well, I saw so-and-so put on Facebook that she's going to go live on Facebook tonight, so I'm not going to drive over there.
I do believe that technology is hurting live entertainment, and just indirectly. It's good that it's out there. It's for convenience, but yeah, I definitely believe it's hurting, the value of live entertainment. Going back to the band that told you they were good, were they good?
I never even went to see him. They were performing way up in Dade City, and he says, because I said, well, look, this isn't something that I normally do. I said, but because so and so who referred you, let me come to your next gig, and I'll film it, and I'll take it home, and I'll cut it up, and I'll edit you down maybe a little 3.5 minute demo reel that you can then put on your website and on your Facebook. I'll even put it on the Now Hear This YouTube channel. That way, there's opportunities for exposure. And he talks to the guys in his band and calls me back and says, we can't understand, why should we pay you to do something that's going to benefit you? And I just smacked myself in the forehead like, this guy just doesn't get it. And he says, if you want to come out and do it for free so you can hear us and see us perform. And I thought, I'm going to drive all the way to Dade City and sit there and film this whole thing and bring it back and do it for nothing. No, that's not worth it.
So your business, focuses on getting, or should say representing different musical talents, but you're not just a booking service, as you were saying.
Correct.
There's a lot more to it, and part of what you do is developing the talent. Now, do you work solely just with musicians? Do you work with actors, actresses, other forms of entertainment?
I have a client right now who is an author. Her book just came out a couple of weeks ago, so we've had a very busy month getting her interviews and doing book signings and things of that nature. I've got some small businesses. It's really all under the communications umbrella, which is media relations, public relations, the web, social media, marketing.
Okay, so this can cross over into just general entrepreneurship and businesses too. You do some representation with them and help them get PR as well. So it's not just entertainment per se.
Absolutely.
It's also businesses.
Yeah, entertainment is my sweet spot, and that's what the company was founded on. So because I also do have the podcast, which is called Now Hear This Entertainment, where every week I'm interviewing someone that's having success in the entertainment business, it's for that reason that I come on a show like yours, and right away I start getting all excited and I talk all about the music. But I do work with non-music clients also.
You should coach all of your bands or your musicians and stuff to go on stage much earlier, because these late nights are killing me, man.
I don't know if you know, but Josh is a videographer. He goes out to a lot of the concerts and films a lot of the bands. And
I just go to concerts. I don't film them all the time, but yeah.
A lot of times, though, you've done some good work, though, I've seen over there. So he also does that.
But
too,
Josh, that's a good point, because if I was thinking about this on the ride over here, that if somebody were to ask me, for instance, I'm doing a workshop a week from tomorrow, and I thought if somebody asks me, what's the one piece of advice that you want to give to an aspiring artist, it would be accountability, which is something like not only being on time to start at the time that you're booked to perform, but also, and you can relate to this, Jamie, is when I'm contacting people to be on my podcast and they don't email back, I think, that's... I mean, someone's giving you an opportunity. My podcast has gotten listeners in 121 countries around the world, and you don't want that kind of exposure. At least write back and say, thank you, and give a polite reason. But to not answer back at all, I think, that's a black eye right there. And so that's why with the people I work with, I make sure that someone would never get that impression of one of my clients.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the lack of communication, because I'll give people offers, or I'll give them a thank you, or I'll do something. And even when I try to acknowledge most emails, I can't get to them all because I do get like 400 or 500 a day, but I try to get back to most of them. Even if it's a decline of the offer, I still thank them. Thank you for the offer. I'm not, in the market for that at this time. So I try to at least, give them some type of encouragement. But yeah, you'd be surprised how many people don't respond to things. And you're right. I mean, it does kind of, put a black eye on them, so you see that probably just as much as I do.
Yeah, it will stick with you. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, that over the 2.5 years that I've been doing my podcast, there's two names right off the top of my head that come to mind. So it might only be two. There might be a third that I'm not thinking of right now that just flat out, quote unquote, stiffed me. And so to this day, I'm sorry. I'm a strong Christian, but I have a bad taste in my mouth for those two people, because those are the two that I think of that you left me high and dry. And the first one was way back in the early stages of my podcast. So I didn't have any quote unquote in the bank that I thought, well, fortunately we can just put out this one. So I had to literally sit there and make up an entire show, and that's the only episode out of 137 shows. That's the only one where it's just me talking the whole time.
Wow. So you have a unique challenge. I mean, you're dealing with artists who are generally just focused on just their art, and they're not so much business oriented, which is usually the other side of the brain. And so you've got to bring a business to an artist. I mean, is that a challenge in of itself right there for you?
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, because I always say that's a large part of the reason why you're hiring me, is so that you can focus on what you do best, which is creating and performing music, and I'll worry about the business stuff. But at the same time, they do have to have a little bit of a business sense. So when I come to them and say, this is the opportunity, this is what it is, they can be accountable to it, but they can also make an informed decision.
Right. And you're going to be putting on a workshop here coming up at the Pensacola Songwriters Week. Tell us about this.
Yeah, the Pensacola Beach Songwriters Festival, this will be the 8th year for it. It starts next week, Thursday, the 29th, and it's 4 days long. And I have a client that she's been performing at it. I think this will be her 6th out of the 8 years of the festival. And I've just kind of become a friend to the festival. Maybe you might call it over the years, going with her every time she performs. And so, I just was looking for some way to give back to the festival. They're not paying me to do it, but they are putting more of an emphasis on the young people who are coming to perform at the Songwriters Festival. So I said, look, let me put on a 90-minute promoting your music career workshop, free to attend. And so that's what I'm going to do next week, Saturday, which is October 1st. I don't know if there's anyone listening that is in that immediate area, but if you know someone that's, I'd say within a 25, 30-mile radius, I can assure you it'll be worth the drive. It's going to be at 1 o'clock at a venue called the Upper Room at Interlight. If you know the Pensacola Beach area, you'll know where it is, but they are also one of the venues for the Songwriters Festival. And I love going to the Songwriters Festival because that's all about storytelling. That's the real emphasis. A lot of these people, as Josh probably knows, a lot of these people that go out and perform are having to do cover songs. The venues really don't want them doing a whole lot of their original stuff. I'm talking about places around here in the greater Tampa Bay area. But when you're at a Songwriters Festival, you're not doing any cover songs. You're only doing your own stuff, and you get the chance to sit on stage and tell what each song is about and when you wrote it and why you wrote it. And, of course, plug it's on such and such an album, etc. But that's a really great time because, those songwriters, those are their children. Those songs are their children. Those are their babies. And so to sit there and talk with pride about the music that they're doing, you hear some amazing stories and, see people move to tears and people laughing and a whole range of emotions.
Yeah. Currently talking to Bruce Wozniak, founder and president of Now Hear This Entertainment. You can learn more about this over at nowhearthis.biz. Again, nowhearthis.biz. You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie Maloney on 1250 Wins WHNZ. Missed a show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here's your host, Jamie Maloney.
And we're back to That Business Show with Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Talking to Bruce Wozniak, founder and president of Now Hear This Entertainment. Learn more about this over at nowhearthis.biz. Bruce, you have an ebook coming out. Let's talk about this.
Yes, this will be the third in the series. On my podcast every week, I give out a little tip in the middle of the show called Bruce's Bonus, and it's because I know that the audience has overwhelmingly up-and-coming singers, songwriters, entertainers, and so to give them a tip, granted, I do strategize and ask questions during my show that are designed to get the guest to really kind of give out some helpful information. So they're talking about things like how they got their songs placed in film and television, or how they're getting booked at better venues, or how they ran a Kickstarter campaign or whatever crowdfunding platform they used. But I go out of my way to deliberately give a tip. And so what I've done is repurpose that content, and I've put out the Bruce's Bonus Book series. So as a nod towards Casey Kasem with the Old American Top 40, every 40 shows I'll stop and put out a new book. So the Bruce's Bonus Book series is now going to be up to volume 3. It will probably be out today, tomorrow, Monday at the latest. brucesbonusbook.com is where you can find it. And what it does is it makes it a lot easier for these entertainers to just get all those tips in one convenient place. Because if someone was to find my podcast today, they'd say, gosh, episode 137, I like that he gives out a tip in the middle, but I'm not about to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 136 just to try to find where in that episode did he give out the tip and what was it. And what I also did was when I went to publish volume 2, I thought, these guests are giving out some really great insights on the show. So I'm also going to pull a quote from the guest also. So when you get the Bruce's Bonus Book, it has whatever my bonus was from that episode, and it mentions who the guest was, just a real quick couple lines about their credentials, and then I have links in there. Since it's an electronic version, you can click on those links. So if you are intrigued enough by who the guest was and the quotes that are on that page, you can say, I'm actually going to go back and listen to this entire episode so I can get the full interview. But that's what I started doing with Volume 2, is to say, not only here's my bonus from that episode, but here's a quote from that guest. And so now Volume 3 is coming out, like I said, today.
Bruce'sBonusBook.com?
Yeah. Yes.
Bruce'sBonusBook.com.
Hey, is there a chapter in there on proper groupie selection? I need some help.
So we're talking during the break about, when you book, entertainers in a lot of, the local rooms and stuff, it's tough for them to even be, get their sound out because the venues want to hear covers a lot of times. So it's hard for a musician to play their original music and get found. So, I mean, how are musicians getting found these days? Is it just YouTube? Is this where we're getting all our musicians today, the ones who are lucky enough to be found on that channel?
Sadly, a lot of it is who you know. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the golden rule in business, whatever industry you're in. But there are some venues. Granted, I like to take a step back and look at a much broader area than just the greater Tampa Bay area. So you just have to be in the business long enough and know which venues do support original music. And things like songwriters festivals are really valuable places. I do tell people that when you go to a songwriters festival, now see, for those of us that live here in Florida, these guys that come down from Nashville, it's like a vacation to them. So they're very accessible, and they'll talk to you in a way that if you went up to Nashville and tried to knock on these folks' door, you're not going to get to them. They're way too busy, and now it's a home game for them. Well, now all of a sudden they're on vacation. They're coming down to the Panhandle to do a songwriters festival. You can talk to these people. And so the more contacts you make and the more insight you get, and then you start performing. I always say, don't go to a songwriters festival just thinking, I'm going to go there and play my original songs. This will be a lot of fun. You're going there because you're basically, quote unquote, auditioning for those other songwriters, because somebody may hear you and say, wow, I like what you're doing. I want to write with you, or I know ... insert opportunity here. And I've said this for years and years, and I love that I've been doing this long enough that I have enough firsthand stories to back it up now. But you truly do never know who's going to be in the audience, that all of a sudden they may come with an opportunity for you. But yeah, to your point, YouTube is certainly helping, and there's just so many platforms that musicians can get their original music out now. SoundCloud, of course, is a big one. So people are getting found, and it's we were talking before about social media and how it's going to do some harm, but that is one of the good that it does do, is you can build up this following online. And again, I hear stories all the time on my podcast of people saying, a guy was just on that talked about he got a music video done for free by Hollywood director Joel Schumacher. And I said, come on, how did you get something like that? He said, I was at one of these big New York parties where, you never know who's going to be there, and was talking to the guy, and the guy gave him a demo. The guy was a fan, and he said, maybe someday, I should just make a video for you. So he literally called him out on it. A month went by or however much time, called him up and said, hey, Joel, this is so-and-so, and, we're ready to do a video, and they did it. So there's opportunities out there. You just have to work hard and go looking for them. And again, it starts with believing in yourself.
Yep.
How big are the venues that the Songwriters Music Festival is? I mean, is it like a large, actual festival setting, or is this held at a small club?
Yeah, it's a series of stages throughout that community. I use the word stages because that's what the Pensacola Beach Songwriters Festival refers to. But they're just various venues around town. It's not a festival format where there's this massive stage with thousands of people. But it's a fun atmosphere. Looking forward to being back there.
Bruce Wozniak, founder and president of Now Hear This Entertainment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie.
And learn more about him over at nowhearthis.biz. Again, nowhearthis.biz.